Welcome to Where's the Any Key, the podcast where we talk shop about topics, tips, and trends for the modern IT admin. I'm your host, Ryan Bacon, the IT support manager at JumpCloud. Joining me today is Dennis Irizarry. He is an IT specialist at BetterCloud. How are you doing today, Dennis?
Good, Ryan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I am an IT specialist at BetterCloud under 2 years, former BetterCloud customer. Been working in tech for 12 years, across a bunch of different industries, bunch of different sort of roles, whether it be tech support, sales, customer service sort of things. Worked in the media industry for a bit before coming to BetterCloud in 2019.
Awesome. So what we're going to chat about today is leveraging technology and how that affects the end user experience or the customer experience. I've been trying to break myself of saying end user and go more with customer, but it's hard when you've been saying end user for years.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, it comes down to both can be impacted depending on the industry you're in, what your company does, what their product is. So all that kind of comes. It's end user and customer can be one and the same sometimes.
Yeah, and it's more of a matter of perspective, really. So, anyways, before we going on a tangent at the very beginning of the episode, I think would be a record for us. But so technology and the customer experience, how leveraging technology can affect the customer experience. Why don't you kick it off with your take on it?
Yeah, I think my take on this, and this is based on experience of working in varying degrees of efficiency at BetterCloud, at other companies, and trying to find the gaps to reduce the work that my team is doing, what I'm doing every day, and seeing what the end results of that are. I mean, us in IT, we all want to be more efficient at what we do. We want to perhaps try to have the robots click the buttons so we're not clicking the buttons, to free us up from other things. But I think it's important to also see what the impact of that is outside of our everyday work. Just what our team is doing, the people that we report to, and what sort of impact that has on our end users, our customers, and their functions, their efficiency, and ultimately their experience. Because everyone is using technology in our organizations, the better that we can provide them the tools to do their jobs, the better their experience is going to be. So everything is kind of networked in that sort of way.
Yeah, and there's so many aspects of someone's day-to-day life, work life, that can be impacted by how their IT team or person, however it's set up, uses different technology, uses different products or tools to meet goals. An example that I could think of that comes to mind early is that I worked at a nonprofit, and they had a guest check-in system, and I use that with big air quotes, a guest check-in system. that what it was just it was an access database that was just lived on one of the front desk computers, and it was clunky. It wasn't implemented super well. It's just somebody's like, we have access to office tools, so we to the office suite, so we access is in here, we can make a database. That's how they tracked it, and it was just all sorts of, they were constantly running into problems. So when I started working here, I was at the tail end of grad school, and I was one of the classes I was taking was was essentially a web development class. At the time it was our capstone, so it involved, so the idea was that you would create a website, but leveraging stuff like, your programming and your databases and like all of this stuff. So of course, when you're working on it, for a class thing, you're like, oh, maybe I could do this new shiny thing for the organization. And I did, so it was super basic, very, it was just a dynamic table where they can add people that, and can update the different rows, and that it would reset itself every day, but we could go into the database and run a query if we needed for previous days, and that sort of thing. So very basic, but even that little thing streamlined things so much, because it was run on a web server and not on an independent system. They were able to log into any computer. The manager, like the manager, was able to even go and keep an eye on how things are going. So if they get backed up, they could pull in help from other areas and that sort of thing. And it's like, it seems on the surface it's a super simple thing, but it changed it. Well, I would like to think, and from what I saw, it did, that it really helped with the workflow for that area.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is something that, like, there's so many aspects to how a user or a customer interfaces with technology, in any one given organization, whether it be something like that, whether it be the computer that they're into every day. It could be just having the tools that they need. It could be their experience on day one, which I find to be like incredibly important,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that if an end user or a customer's experience with a company or with a product is positive from the start, then that gives an IT team or teams or Scrum teams the capacity to innovate and have buy-in
Mm-hmm.
from all those different areas around the company that they might need buy-in from.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad you brought up the day one thing, because I'm sure it's similar with many IT teams out there, that new hire, like onboarding and stuff like that, is an important part of your job. And the more manual a process is, the more prone it is to mistakes, in my mind.
Yeah, of course.
So using automation, like you said, having the computer push the buttons for you will make things a lot easier, and will make things less prone to errors, and will make for a better first day experience for new hires, because they'll have what they need. They'll be more prepared to start this new job, which is, starting a new job is stressful enough.
Of course.
And so adding to that, if you don't have, access to the tools that you need and everything like that when you start, that makes it even more stressful.
Yeah, and it's not just that person's experience, it's that person's manager's experience, because
Mm-hmm.
then comes the tickets of, can you add this person to this distribution group? Can you add this person, can you provision this person in this platform? Can meanwhile, you knew that person was starting.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're able to automate that work ahead of time, obviously it frees up capacity for the IT team. But the person that's starting on their first day, they're happy because they have the tools they need, and then their manager is happy because they're in the tools that they need to be in order to start their hit the ground running with whatever their function may be.
Yeah, exactly. And along with automation, while we're talking about it, it's important to note that when you automate a process, it's not just one and done. And
Right.
you have to stay on top of it.
Hmm.
We've gotten busy, and we've not updated our onboarding script. And what happens is that as, especially as a company's growing and, new roles are added or, requirements change, everything like that. If you don't, if you don't, if those changes aren't reflected in your onboarding script, you're taking steps back and going to a more manual process while you're going and fixing stuff up. So yeah, if you're running any kind of automation, any kind of especially a in-house built tool, you have to put in the time to stay on top of it and make sure that it's up to date and useful.
Yeah, definitely. And, I mean, I work at BetterCloud. BetterCloud is a tool that, solves for these sort of things. But even us internally, we took a very holistic view at what our onboarding looks like. And, we documented, this is something that I actually did. I documented every click of a mouse to get just a person, regardless of title and organization within the company, uh, onboarded. I'm like, all right, so how can we get this 30 something clicks, 30, let's say 39 clicks down to less than 10?
Mm-hmm.
And how can we leverage what products are we using in our onboarding? So we have an IDP, we have BetterCloud, of course. We're a G Suite, we're a Google based company. What tools do we have, and how can we leverage them? Whether with their built-in components to reduce this work, and then what sort of custom stuff do we have to do?
Mm-hmm.
And then we went beyond that. There's like layers of an onion, right? So you have like,
Exactly.
all right, we have a full-time employee, cool. They need to be in these sort of things. And then then you have your location-based stuff, which is the second layer. So okay, if they're based in this city, we're gonna want to make sure that they're in maybe these Slack channels for this office. And then there's the layer org. Are they in sales? Are they in engineering? Then it gets further and further down. And so that's something that we are continuing. To your point, we had workflows for these sort of things. We had both, in a literal sense in BetterCloud, but also in a more written down, sense. But they were out of date.
Mm-hmm.
So we found, hey, it's like there's a lot of stuff here we should be automating. We can automate, so we need to really devote the time to do this. So that way, we put the 2 hours in now to save us 20 hours down the road.
Exactly. And you bring up BetterCloud, which I do think is a really neat tool. And that reminds me that both of us are kind of in a similar situation. We are an internal IT team working for a company that develops a product geared towards IT people.
Exactly.
So it's a really, I feel that's a really interesting dynamic. And so so obviously, if BetterCloud's anything like JumpCloud, we try to, the term used to be, eat our own dog food, but now it's going to be a little bit more classy of drinking our own champagne.
Oh yes, that is what we use. That's the term that we like to use as well. It's in our OKRs. We try to drink our own champagne and leverage our product and be the poster child for using BetterCloud.
Yeah, and so we do the same thing with JumpCloud, and it's so like, what is, as much as you can talk about it, what's been your experience with that concept of using your own tool and being an internal representation of your organization's customer?
I think that with anything, we have always used it a lot, but we are trying to find not only how are we using it, how can we improve how we're using it,
Mm-hmm.
but also we've been having more candid sort of discussions with the folks in engineering and product around what sort of things would we like to see the product do better for us. What are some hiccups, whether it be a UI thing, what are some things that we would like to see to make our jobs easier, because we are the best representation of what a customer is going to be, right? We have
Exactly.
most direct access to the folks that are innovating these sort of things. So to answer your question, like it's been a really unique sort of we're in a unique sort of position to not only use a product to the best of our ability because it's ours, but also to continue to innovate it and to kind of break new grounds and to increase the experience for us, so that way, getting back to like the core of what we were talking, the better experience that we have using this product, whether it be any product, right? So
Hmm.
whether it's JumpCloud, BetterCloud, or any of the other sort of tools that help with automation, um, is being able to directly impact the experience of our team, so we can directly impact the experience of the teams that we service.
Anyway, so you were just talking about you know using the tools and your experience with that, and how it translates to benefits for the end user. So yeah, and I think that's that's good that you brought it back to the to the end user, because that's one thing that when I have discussions with our product team and that sort of things, it's not just we don't just take I don't just take my team's experience with it, but like how will this translate to benefits for the people that the users of the people that I support.
Right.
And that's something that you always should be keeping in mind when looking at enhancements to existing tooling or looking at new solutions or anything like that. It's not just what's easier for you, it's
Yeah.
what's easier across the board. But and it's up to you to decide where what that balance looks like, because there are definitely going to be cases where something you could get put a solution into place that will make it easier for you but more difficult for your customers.
Yeah, definitely. And I
And
think that that's a balance that we're always trying to uh ride, right? With whether it be, from an information security standpoint, whether it be a hardware standpoint, it's, there's that balance of like what's easy for the IT team, what's easy for the user, and then also like from a process standpoint, it's like we have a way that we need to do things, but we have to think of directly how that's going to impact a user. And if it can create any points of friction, how that could be alleviated, right? Whether that's leveraging technology or processes, or leveraging, training or documentation or something like that to, continue having your end users on your side when it comes to, being able to do the things that you want to do.
yeah, exactly. And I think finding that balance also will come down to you know I know this term gets thrown around a lot, but like company culture.
Yeah.
So like here at Jump Cloud, we put a lot of emphasis that we want to make things you know smooth and as seamless as possible for the average employee. So I take that as a mandate that that the IT team, we're willing to take on that extra work to enhance the experience of the average employee, which means and that's reflected in I'll this is my number one example is our help desk
Hmm.
platform. So we were when I started, there was no help desk. We were just a little scrappy startup,
Yeah.
and it was very much like shooting from the hip, and just walking by my desk to make a request or sending me an email or Slack or something like that. So one of the first things I did was, I mean, they were there was a help desk that was set up, but nobody was actually using it. So my
Hmm.
first priority was was getting that, getting that ramped up and getting buy-in, people actually using it and stuff like that. And, traditionally with help desk, it's very, go through these channels to make requests, either log into the help desk and submit a request there, or send an email. And that's usually, traditionally how it goes. And, getting buy-in for a new tool is always a challenge. And so, we end up getting decent buy-in for that, but we're continuing to grow. So instead of trying to like bring down the hammer and be like, okay, people, you have to go through and do this, change your practices to fit our workflow. We decided to change our workflow to fit their practices.
Right.
So we end up getting another a help desk platform that is fully integrated with Slack, and can also receive email requests. So we get a Slack message, whether it's in a channel or DM, couple clicks, that message is now a ticket. So I feel like, and is it more work? Is it more work on us? Technically, yes, but in the end, I feel that the ease at which the benefit for everybody else who's using it outweighs that little bit of extra work that we put into it. Because actually, now that I think about it more, it ended up being also less work for us in the end, because we didn't spend as much time trying to get people to go through the original channels of making requests. It really is, when it's really a matter of just a couple seconds to turn a message into a ticket, then really that's kind of a win-win in my book.
So, it's a ROI, but the investment isn't money, it's time, right? Exactly. So it's like you put the time in. I think I said this earlier, you put the 2 hours in now for the series of 20 hours down the road. Obviously, getting a help desk system set up and changing company culture in order to use it, and the training involved and the documentation involved, and setting up the Slack integration and the forwarding email, that's a lot more than 2 hours of work. But when it becomes so ingrained in the way that you do things now, it saves you a headache. Especially, and that transition, I'm sure I mean, obviously this may have been some time ago, but could you imagine if you didn't put that work in before we all went to work from home a year ago?
Oh man. I mean, I do honestly think that that's one of the reasons why we were able to make the transition to 100% remote so easily. I mean, first and foremost, we were remote friendly beforehand, but there is definitely a difference between being remote friendly and being fully remote. So.
Yeah. Trust me, I'm looking at 3 laptops in front of me. I'm shipping out today. It very much is two different sort of things. It's funny. I was actually talking to my team earlier this morning about how much life has changed and how much life may not change as things get better. But it was kind of weird, right? Like a year ago, it's like, hey, we'll be back in 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks became 2 months, and then 2 months became indefinitely. And I think that put more of a emphasis on automating tasks and what end user experience looks like, especially with the folks that you're not going to be shaking hands with. These are folks that are onboarding during this time that you may never meet. And an example of that is I have a guy on my team that's been here for 11 months, and I've yet to actually shake his hand. But I work with him every day, right? So it's super important, to automate processes and to take a holistic look at the technology that you're using in your org and the things that you're doing, and how they can be improved, or maybe not even improved, but maybe just turn around a little bit and just kind of retooled to fit the environment that we're in.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you brought up the shift to remote. First off, it's crazy to think that it's been nearly a year since like the Jump Cloud offices were shut down, and
Yeah,
we're not in any hurry to go back. So
where
it's
BetterCloud offices are not opening back up full time anytime this calendar year.
yeah, it's and in a way that I think that's a smart move, because first off,
Absolutely.
we don't know what things are going to look like, and really, who wants to be that first person to open up and test the waters of a post pandemic office environment? I don't want
Yeah,
to be in
definitely.
that position. But
Yeah,
there's plenty of times when you want to be when you want to blaze trails and be a pioneer, but I don't think that's one of them.
I
so,
agree. I can agree more.
so,
Absolutely.
but going with this remote environment and going to more of the process side of things, not just technology.
Yeah.
I think that it does. The dynamic is totally different. Like you said, you can have new hires that you never meet, and especially if a company is growing, getting bigger, and you get past that point of being able to have those individual relationships with everybody in the office.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
not only that, but in a remote environment, you it may just be a name that crosses your screen at one point, and then that's it. So I'm trying to I'm changing a dynamic of the paradigm of how I think of things. So the classic saying is, if a meeting could be taken care of in an email, then you should take care of it in an email and not schedule a meeting.
Yeah.
I'm in a lot of cases I am turning that around to where if a meeting can be done in a meeting, if a meeting could happen without you know without having to bend over backwards for scheduling and stuff like that, even if it could be handled in an email, you should really consider doing a meeting just so you can have the virtual face to face, maintain or establish connections with the people. So even though maybe we could send we can do just send troubleshooting instructions via Slack or via email, doing that, a Google Meet or a Slack call, video call, or something like that is a nice way to improve that experience, that that there is a connection between you and your the people that you serve, and and I feel that that's just as important as putting on leveraging new technologies or new tools to help support your remote work environment.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, like people want to feel like they're being taken care of, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I couldn't agree more in the notion that, you know, I mean, I personally do this where I will find 30 minutes on someone's calendar to help them troubleshoot and one-on-one via Zoom or Hangout. Especially the folks that I don't interface with like regularly. So what I've been trying to do is a little bit of both of what you just mentioned, which is the people that I meet with all the time. I'm like, how
Mm-hmm.
can we condense these meetings or maybe make the cadence a little less? Because I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm in more meetings now than I was a year ago. Um, but those troubleshooting interactions, or not even maybe troubleshooting, maybe sometimes social, maybe there's someone that just started at the company that you haven't, obviously you haven't met, and you want some one-on-one time to understand what they're doing because their job directly impacts you. That's incredibly important.
Mm-hmm.
To make those connections is incredibly important. Um, so yeah, I think that's a really solid point. In this new normal of remote work, where we're not going to be shaking hands with folks that we maybe sometimes work with or work with a lot or maybe don't work with, but it's still important for them to know who you are and what you do in order for them to know, who their resources are when they do have technical issues, when they want to implement something, or when they just want to, this is now uniquely something with our two companies being, SaaS companies that people buy, the folks that are selling the company, selling the product, to come to us as a resource to get
Mm-hmm.
our opinions from an industry perspective.
Yeah, definitely. And tying technology into this this more personable aspect of it. So the social aspect of it. There are definitely tools out there that can help facilitate these things. So we use a Slack app that's called Donut, and what it does is
we use it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super helpful. So for those people who don't know, Donut is a Slack app where you add it to a channel, and then people join said channel, and then you set a cadence, and what will happen is, so every 3 weeks or whatever you set, it pairs people up for just essentially water cooler chat. So
Yeah.
it'll be like, okay, it'll say, hey, you and you schedule some time to just 20-30 minutes, and out however long, just schedule some time to get to know each other. And that's, for me, I look forward to these things because I'm, while I definitely have my introverted tendencies, I still crave social interaction. I'll get to that point where like I need to talk to people. I do that, and with working from home and not having those the opportunities for those impromptu conversations, just run those water cooler conversations, having something there to facilitate it has been really nice for me mentally, but also it helps me get to know the people that me and my team support, and helps us to feel more as an overall team, a bigger organization, that we're all in this together, that sort of thing.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
What other ways can you think of where a a new tool, or implementing a new tool or policy has made a drastic impact on your customers' experiences?
I mean, something that I was really trying to work through over the summer was developing a training program for
Mm-hmm.
our, for the folks at BetterCloud. All the tools that we all kind of use. So that would be, in BetterCloud's case, that would be all, you know, all the different facets of Google Workplace, formerly G Suite, Zoom, Slack, uh, and just having resources for folks to, to one, help our IT team, so that way people have resources so they don't have to open up tickets for things. Um, but also, I mean, that's, it could be a kind of viral thing if, you teach a man to fish, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that, I continue to be very passionate about giving folks the tools that they have and the resources available to them. Because it's, it's self-serving in the sense where, you giving, it's reducing the amount of, tickets that, an IT team may get. But also giving, opening their eyes to some things that they might not have known. So things like Gmail filters,
Mm-hmm.
things like, organizing which I love this feature that Slack implemented with being able to organize all your channels and all your conversations, and have
Yes.
like kind of different subfolders and put a little emoji next to it based on what the topic may be. Things like that. Are the sort of things that, that we continue to, make sure our users know about it, so that way they can have an easier, more fun time working and doing the work that they do.
Yeah, that's a good one, because we are, documentation is always a fight to keep it
Oh,
updated, because
definitely.
that's when you get busy, that's one of the first things to go by the wayside. And so we are we're working on one of the projects that one of our team members is working on is getting, our documentation not only updated, but to convert all of these Google Docs into a wiki, so that, that it's better organized. Our team has access to it. But then, we were talking about it, and it's like, okay, while we're at this, maybe we should have, make our own internal knowledge base for the other Jump Cloud for everybody else in Jump Cloud to use, because, we've done a lot of work, like when there's like a new feature in one of the tools that we use, we'll send out an email being like, hey, here's how you use this feature. Or we've implemented a lot of Slack auto responses with useful information, like, well, when we were in the office, instructions on how to set up your printer and all of that stuff. But yeah, we have those auto responses, but how do people know what auto responses there are out there? So there's all this information that you put out into the world at a point in time. But what happens first off, as time passes, people forget, because
of course.
And then
human. Also and then new folks join, and they might not have caught that, so something that was actually something that BetterCloud started doing when we went remote is by having a cadence of all hands meetings, short 30-minute all hands meetings every week. We were doing it twice a week. We got it down to once a week. And our team, we did this, I think, at least 2 times. We might have done it 3 times. Times that construct, it passes us by, right? But we had a work from home like tips and tricks sort of session with different platforms. Because we could put out a help desk article or a K-base article. Doesn't mean anyone's going to read it. But here we have a platform, as a Zoom meeting, where we can maybe teach some folks how to do things that they might not have known how to do to make their lives easier. And we've done that a few times, and we're going to continue doing it as our team has grown, as BetterCloud has grown, because we're continuing to hire folks that this might be their first time actually working remote, or we have some entry-level folks that this might drop out of college, so they might be completely unfamiliar with a lot of the technology that we use. This might be the first time using Slack or Zoom, which is hard for us as IT folks to kind of like wrap our heads around, because we've been using all these tools and tools like it for as long as we've been doing this. But I think it's not just having documentation, which is great, but to your point, keeping documentation up to date is another thing. But it's also how folks consume information, and whether that's at work or in their everyday lives. It varies. Some people prefer different ways of absorbing information. So we're trying to figure out like all the best ways in order to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And with having a live, doing a presentation, having your team do a presentation to a live audience, there's being able to field questions like at the moment, with people being like, hey, I don't think that's almost that's impossible to replicate just with a knowledge base or a wiki. And something that I haven't brought up to my team yet, but that I've been toying around with is, maybe doing, setting time for, every week or every other week or once a month, whatever cadence we determine, but doing an IT office hours thing, where it's not, you don't necessarily have to give a presentation, but have there be a time where somebody is just sitting on a video call so that people can just come in the door, can jump in, have conversations about stuff. I haven't given it a ton of thought, as you can probably see. I'm just kind of riffing here.
It's an abstract.
Maybe have a theme or something like that. But giving people time, the ability to interact with you on a on a whatever the face-to-face basis is nowadays, through live interaction, you know and I think that would be incredibly valuable, not only as a resource to share information with your your users, but as just a way to stay in contact with them, to build and maintain rapport, and pretty much stay away from being that ambiguous, like IT, the IT guys who are just kind of lurking in the shadows in the
They're in some dark
background.
cavern in the basement of an office building somewhere, right?
Exactly. So yeah, I'm looking at that, and I'll we'll see how that goes. But I'm thinking that it would be beneficial, and especially since our team's grown and we have a little bit more breathing room. And I mean, you and I were talking about this before we started recording, about team size, and making sure you get on, you have enough people to support uh, to support your users, and timing it so where that you're not just trying to play catch up all the time. So
Yeah.
something that for those of you out there who are who would like to implement these sort of practices, they are time consuming, there is no doubt about that. But if you structure it, if you go at it from the angle of it's enriching the employee experience, it's which is not only just good experientially, a good experience for the employee, but it makes it easier for you to do your job with those relationships. And so it's take it from that angle, as opposed to, well, if we have another head count, we have another FTE, another team member, whatever, we will have the bandwidth to do to answer X number of more tickets. You have to look at it as a more, as you said, more holistically.
Yeah, not even answer X amount of tickets, but potentially to reduce the amount of volume that you receive every day, right?
Right.
Comes back full circle, and by you bring on someone else, which we're looking to do in the Atlanta area, and so you bring on someone else to help free up some capacity, and with that capacity, you continue to innovate in hopes of automating our work, but also just to continue to leverage our experience and the experience of our users.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, when you come down to it, the role of IT, at least in my mind, the role of IT is to improve business processes, to increase business efficiency. So that's not just answering tickets and fixing broken computers. Right. It's the more proactive that you're able to get, the better you're able to actually tackle that base goal, especially the efficiency part of it. And that's how IT, which is traditionally a cost center, that's how you show your value, since you can't necessarily show ROI and that sort of thing. Be like, how did we make things more efficient? How did we make things more secure? How did we improve how the business functions, how the organization functions, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And when you work in IT, you're at a weird sort of what's the best way for me to put this? Like, you have your hands on so many different aspects of an organization, whether that be recruiting, HR, the folks that are selling, and for us, the folks that are selling the product that we use, the folks that are marketing the product that we use, all those different things. And then obviously we also have, we're interfacing with the folks that lead different departments to make sure that they're running effectively and efficiently. Yeah, it's a really cool place to be. And with that, it gives you a lot of, different lenses to kind of look at how, how in IT we are performing.
Yeah, exactly. And it definitely, it's one of the reasons why I love doing what I do, is because you get, not only do you get to scratch that technical itch of, you know, of working with hardware, software, that sort of thing, and that itch, that problem solving itch, but you also get to, if you're willing, because you can definitely just put yourself in a silo and focus on fixing computers and answering tickets and stuff. But if you're willing to step back and take a broader view, you can get exposure to so many different aspects of the business, the finance and sales and
Mm-hmm.
and marketing and stuff like that. And I've made it my goal. One of the ways that I give back to the IT industry is that I do answer those questions from our sales team. I do answer those questions from our marketing team when they come to me for insight, because I figure that if I can help them be the kind of sales and marketing people that I like working with, with the vendor client relationship, that hopefully that would help other IT admins, IT pros that they work with when trying to do our product. So that's my way of getting back. And it also, the different aspects of their industry, their roles and their tasks and everything like that, I also just find fascinating. I would never want to be a salesperson or a marketer, but I do like peeking into their world every once in a while.
Yeah, I tried to AMAs with to Ask Me Anything with the folks in business development, sales development, because they're taking a world that they didn't go to college for, right? Like, they are not IT pros, but they're selling to IT pros. So they're selling a product into an industry where their customer knows more about the industry than they do. And that's a difficult place to be. So I try to be that resource as well. Just like you said, I try to interface with all those folks for them to continue to use me as a resource, but also to get kind of like pull back the curtain a little bit into what the daily life may be.
Yeah, definitely. And not only that, I would say that IT people are probably some of the most difficult customers to have.
Yeah, absolutely. We're a diverse bunch, to say the least. I mean, not only, so yeah, we're difficult. We're difficult as it is, but we're also. But the point I was trying to make with being diverse is, like, we come from a variety of backgrounds and training and education and personality types. You got the folks like Jimmy Fallon was on SNL, where he just pushes people out of the way and solves their problem for them. And then I like to think that, I'm quite the opposite of that. And I try to be, a partner in folks being able to resolve their issues. So yeah, you got a wide range of folks that you're dealing with. And it's certainly not easy. Stop still, the folks that are selling technology out there. It's not easy.
No, it's definitely not. So that's all the time that we have for today. Again, my guest is Dennis Irizarry, an IT specialist at BetterCloud. Dennis, thank you again for joining us. It has been a pleasure.
Thanks, Ryan. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to Where's the Any Key. If you like what you heard, please feel free to subscribe. Again, my name is Ryan Bacon. I lead IT at JumpCloud, where the team here is building a cloud-based directory platform that provides frictionless, secure access to virtually any IT resource from trusted devices anywhere. You can learn more and even set up a free account at jumpcloud.com.